My name is Emily Carter, and up until 6 months ago, I lived an ordinary life. I had a stable job as a graphic designer, a cozy apartment in Austin, and a few close friends. Nothing extraordinary, nothing dramatic. Safe. Predictable. But that was before him. Before Jason Reeves entered my life, like a storm I didn't see coming. Jason was the kind of man who didn't just walk into a room. He took over its atmosphere. Tall, confident, with piercing blue eyes that held secrets and charm in equal measure. We met at a friend's birthday party. I had only gone because my best friend, Sarah, practically dragged me there. I was never the party type, never the girl to be swept off her feet. But Jason had this presence. When we were introduced, he shook my hand and didn't let go right away. His smile was crooked and knowing, and I should have taken that as a sign. He made jokes that weren't all that funny, but delivered them with such sincerity, I laughed anyway. There was something addictive about him from the start. We exchanged numbers that night, even though a voice in my head warned me not to. I ignored it. What harm could a few texts do? I had a fiancé, after all. A man I loved. A man who had stood by me for 5 years through thick and thin. Ethan Thompson was everything Jason was not. He was kind, steady, a man who brought me flowers just because, who remembered the little things I liked, and who spoke of our future with gentle certainty. We were supposed to get married in the spring. Invitations had been sent, a venue booked, and my dress was hanging in my closet. But my soul was restless. I didn't realize it until Jason began to feed something inside me that I didn't even know was starving. It started with friendly texts, then phone calls that lasted too long, then coffee meetups under the guise of work-related chats. And then one night I crossed the line. Jason showed up at my apartment late. I was alone. Ethan was out of town on a business trip. I opened the door, and Jason didn't say anything. He just looked at me with that intense gaze, and suddenly all the restraint I had been clinging to collapsed. I didn't plan for it to happen. I didn't even think. Afterward, I sat on the floor of my bathroom, shaking. The weight of what I had done crushed me. I had never imagined I would be the kind of person who could betray someone like Ethan. But I had. And the guilt was a living thing inside me. For days, I tried to convince myself it had been a mistake, a one-time lapse in judgment. I could bury it, pretend it never happened, marry Ethan and move forward. But every time I looked at him, I felt like a fraud. He would hold me and talk about our honeymoon plans, and all I could think of was what he didn't know. I started pulling away, making excuses, telling him I was overwhelmed with work. And he, sweet soul that he was, believed me. He never questioned my mood swings or the distant look in my eyes. Meanwhile, Jason kept reaching out. He sent messages I didn't answer, left voicemails that I deleted without listening. But he didn't stop. Then, just 2 weeks before the wedding, I broke down. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My skin itched with the weight of the lie I was carrying. I knew I had to say something. But how do you tell the person who trusts you most that you've betrayed them? One evening, while Ethan was setting the table for dinner, I told him I needed to talk. He smiled and asked if everything was okay. "I can't marry you," I said, and the words came out raw. He looked at me, confused. "What are you talking about? I can't do this." "I thought I could, but I can't." He put down the plate slowly. "Is there someone else?" And just like that, I couldn't lie anymore. I nodded. Tears fell. I told him everything. Not just the what, but the why. How lost I had felt, how I didn't even understand myself anymore. Ethan didn't say a word for the longest time. He just sat there, looking like I had knocked the air out of him. Then he got up and walked out the door. I didn't hear from him for days. When I finally did, it was through a friend who told me he had canceled everything related to the wedding. He didn't want to speak to me, and I understood. I respected his silence. Jason tried to come back into my life after that, but I told him no. It wasn't about him. It never really had been. I had to face myself and the choices I had made. I moved out of the apartment Ethan and I shared. Got a new job in a different city. I started therapy. I needed to rebuild myself, not for anyone else, but for me. Sometimes I still think about Ethan, about what we had, and how I destroyed it. I don't blame him for hating me. I hate what I did too. But I know now that the worst thing I could have done was pretend. Stay silent. Marry him with a lie buried in my heart. I went too far that night with Jason. That's the truth. But at the end of everything, telling the truth, even if it shattered everything, was the only option. I live with that choice every day. And I carry it not as a punishment, but as a lesson. Sometimes the hardest things we do are the ones that free us, even when they break us first.